welcome to the Film Ireland podcast. I'm Gemma Creagh and I'm chatting with some very talented filmmakers ahead of the screening of their shorts at the Cork International Film Festival this year. Thank you guys for coming in and chatting with us.
Thanks for having us.
Very much for having me.
Thanks. So what I'm going to do, rather than me make a hames of it, if I'm going to just call on you guys one-on-one and just if you can introduce yourself and just tell me a little bit about your project. So David.
I'm David Prendeville. My film is Sins of a Werewolf. It's a surreal sort of horror comedy about a priest who gets bitten by an animal and then starts transforming into a werewolf every full moon, playing as part of Irish Shorts 3, Yuri Irelandia. And it's kind of a grotesque satire of the Catholic Church, I suppose.
Go forth in peace and spread the word of our Lord.
Last rites.
Never even heard of this place. We'll have another service first thing in the morning.
It's not all divinity in paradise being a priest, I'm afraid, Father Donovan. Get to work.
I love it. Edwina.
Hi, I'm Edwina Casey. I'm the director of a short film called Algorithm. You know, I always find it really hard to explain algorithm because there's kind of, I suppose there's a few twists in it. So it's always a really hard one to sort of say, oh, it's this. But the official description is when Nervy Al has an absurd encounter with a stranger, he begins to question his whole identity. And that's probably the best way to put it. It's a science fiction comedy. Yeah, it's a sort of a wacky one, I suppose.
Hello, Al.
Hey, Doc.
Do you want a glass of water?
I'm okay, thanks. Do you need anything? Are you okay?
I'm fine, Al. But it's your session.
Yeah, sorry.
So, how was your day? Al?
We're playing as part of Irish Shorts 4.
And Mo.
Hey, my name is Mo O'Connell and I'm directing, I've directed a short film called Hum, written by the brilliant Ivan Kush. And I always struggle on this as well. People ask me what it's about. I was like, just go watch a film. So it's set in the Sean Scully room in the Hugh Lane Gallery, and it's just about a young guy who walks in. He's not interested in the art. He he's kind of down, depressed, and he just wants a quiet moment to himself. And in walks an older gentleman called Cecil, who is a regular there and who is very sensitive and receptive to the art and to the energies of the art and to the hum of, in particular, Sean Scully's work. So he opens, or tries to open, our young guy, Tim, to that, to bring him out of his funk.
Look, that's one there. Boisterous, loud, dangerous, demanding your attention. Not a degree of subtlety to him. And look, this one here. Shy, reserved, yet completely assured in herself.
Lovely. So there's 3 very, very, very different shorts thematic wise. So and there's a lovely mix. So first up, I want to ask a little bit about you guys, a little bit about your background and how you got into directing. So I'll go the reverse way, this way, Mo, if you want to let me know.
Okay, sure. Well, I suppose when I was very, very young, I was about like 8 or 9, I used to shoot fairy tales, basically. So I actually directed before I acted, and then I became an actor afterwards. Yeah, so I did acting at RADA. Before that, I did film production at Ballyfermot. What did I do? I was a professional actor for a while, and I'd use the money that I made from acting and I'd make shorts. And they did like a couple of festivals and that type of thing. And then after RADA, I stayed in London for about 2.5 years, doing primarily just acting. And then I missed filmmaking, so I came back to Ireland, because it's very difficult to kind of make indie shorts in London. It's kind of, because they have like I hesitate to say this, but they have a proper industry in London. So basically, you get sucked up into the industry very quickly. You become like a first aid, and you'll start making money very, very quickly. Whereas in Ireland, there's loads of talented people on the ground who just want to make films and don't get into the industry that much because it's not as big, you know. So I was able to run around making films and have a lot of fun and joy making shorts, and they did some festivals and that type of thing. And then I don't know what else I did. I finally got home. I finally got funding.
Most film spa weekend is after winning an award like to the day.
Yeah. Oh well, that was it was last week or 2 weeks ago.
Your feature film.
Yeah.
What was the award?
Oh God, I was best international feature at Polish International Film Festival.
Oh, congratulations!
Oh, thanks. But yeah, it's total zero budget. Like it was like $5,000 or something, and we shot over a year. I acted in it as well, which was handy because I didn't have to rely on an actress for a whole year. My hair changes color and everything. I wonder if anybody ever notices. And I have a fringe sometimes I don't. But so that's gone well. And then I got funding for Home. It's my first funded short. So yeah. And
you have a feature film in script development.
Oh yes, with you as well.
With me.
Thank God. Yay! And so that's amazing. And so we got the Spotlight Award from Screen Ireland, and Gemma Creagh is an awesome talent, and I'm so lucky to be writing with her. So yeah, great.
Anyway. That's a much longer biography than I just made some films.
Yeah. I was trying to cut it short. I just couldn't shut up. Sorry. Anyway.
So we want Edwina.
That's a hard act to follow, I'll be honest. So like I suppose a bit similar to Mo. I came from a theatre background. I studied English at college, and I kind of knew I was sort of I was directing plays all the time in my spare time. I think my degree was really in directing plays and in English, but so then I went to London and I studied directing at a drama school called Lambda. And I when I came out, I moved back to Ireland, and then I got very much involved in revival directing opera, which is a really niche thing to do, but it was an incredible time. So my job would be to go to production companies, sometimes in Ireland, but often in other countries, and restage an opera with new cast and musicians. And I had no background in opera, but somehow I managed to fit the bill. And so I did that for a long time, and then moved into Screen more recently, and have been doing commercials. And Algorithm is my first short film, so it's been really nice to sort of get that out there, even though I haven't seen it with an audience. So that's a really weird experience. And then maybe to be honest, I think I'm probably relieved in some ways, because I think it can be a bit scary hearing an audience, reaction live, Yeah, and similarly, so I've got a couple of things in development as well. So hopefully they'll be happening next year.
And you have production credits as well on a few things.
Yeah. Well, like I'm doing
on the producing end of things as well. So a lot of good stuff there.
I have a company with my partner called Hail Mary Pictures, and we have a film coming out next year called Here Are the Young Men, directed by Owen Mackin and starring Dean Charles Chapman, Anya Taylor-Joy and Finn Cole. So we're excited to get that out there as well. But I would deem myself more as a support producer than a lead producer by absolutely.
Well, it's always one of the hardest jobs.
I don't know how anyone does it.
It's always your responsibility that you have to manage it.
It's a horrendous job.
Brilliant. So, David.
Yeah, so just growing up, I was always really interested in cinema. I studied it at college, and then I did an MPhil in film theory and history. And then I also did a film-based course where I co-directed film Monged. And since then, I've just been trying to work in the industry and trying to write my own stuff and trying to raise finance for it. And
That's fabulous. So you were on the filmmakers course, the master's course. I didn't recognize you.
Yeah, I was there a few years ago. Yeah, they did the film Mond there with John Connors and Graham Early and Rex Ryan. Yeah.
But David, yeah. So tell me, what was it like? You were one of 3 directors who shot that.
Yeah, it was a really interesting experience. You know, learned an awful lot. You know, it was chaotic, but you definitely kind of put you in the deep end. The actors were great to work with. Yeah, it was a really, really interesting experience, I think.
Okay, so and I just want to go in a little bit about so these are very different films stylistically, thematically. There's a good mix there. I just wanted to go through what was the process of getting it made, from sort of the idea in your eyes to getting a bit of cash together to actually going out and shooting it. So I'll start with Edwina.
So it was privately financed. I had sort of saved money from I had a fee from a directing job that I basically put towards the short. So that was kind of the beginning of it, and then we had some Copperally and then also Hail Mary Pictures and a few other very generous people. So that's sort of how we managed to sort of cobble it together. And then Simon, who wrote the script, was a good friend of mine. We go back to college years ago, and he had written a script, and then he sent it to me, and we sort of went back and forth. I'd always kind of wanted to do his work because I just love his writing. I suppose because he's kind of cynical, which worked for me. So yeah, so then we kind of developed it very much with a location in mind, which was the area that I lived in, because we knew that making like a science fiction drama was very ambitious for the budget that you can raise, but we just were like ruthless about location and knowing how to exploit our locations and shot listing the hell out of it, and that was kind of the only way to get it done, really. So yeah, sorry.
Yeah, you do some very, very clever things.
Thanks.
It works really well, and you do get that kind of futuristic vibe across as well, because I know that space and I kind of know you did, and I was like, that's so clever, and it works really, really, really well. So
yeah, there was definitely, I think, a feeling of like there was not a hope of us being able to shoot fast and loose. Like we had to really kind of basically know what we're doing, and Ronan Raftery, who plays multiple roles, was great at being able to sort of just work with body doubles and sort of be very patient with us, with shooting reverse angles and things like that. So yeah, so it was, hopefully it worked.
Yes, it's really beautiful, and I love the colors in it as well. The colors are just stunning in it. It reminded me like of some films. I hope you don't mind me saying, but I mean it's truly original. It's a really original piece. But obviously there's films just kind of reminds me of it's kind of Spike Jonze. Is it her or the one with Joaquin Phoenix, and he's in love with a robot woman's voice? It reminded me a tiny bit of that, but it's a stunning film, and I can kind of see now that because you worked in opera, you can kind of see visually how you're so theatrical, very bold. I love that.
Thanks. Yeah, it was I think we that's like really kind of you. We sort of, I think we kind of, I suppose Simon and I had probably a love of a certain period of cinema as well, and like I think as well, like the music videos of Michel Gondry and things like that was definitely something we discussed, and even more so with Aidan Galt, the DOP, we sort of figured we'd shoot 4:3 to sort of again sort of just hammer home what was going on in it. And yeah, it's it was just nice because I just love those 4:3, that 4:3 style.
Fabulous. And David, can you tell me just a little bit about how Sins of a Werewolf went from the little brainworm to us getting to see a priest getting bit in the bum?
Kind of wrote the script as a feature originally. I kind of put the cart before the horse a little bit. I was kind of exploring how to get that made, but then it became apparent that I needed to do it as a short really to begin with, and so readapted it into being a short film. We were lucky to secure some private investment in it, and that's how it got made. Yes, it took a while, but eventually we got there.
And so it's a beautiful, lengthy film, which I think is great because shorts. I was having this discussion with someone the other day, and about how sometimes there's just the onus is on shorts to be too short, and sometimes you need to spend a bit of time with it. And again, one thing you definitely realize while watching it, you're like, these are well-rounded characters that you can tell exist in a bigger world. That you can tell the bigger world is out there, which I like. It's not like, something kind of carefully curated to almost tell a story, but you're like, no, we're kind of invited into these little moments, which I really enjoyed as well. So just tell me a little bit about the script. Like, how do you get something of that length down to short length?
Yeah, it took a while, and it was kind of, there was a lot of days when it felt like, oh, this isn't going to work. But I guess just kind of I persevered at, and eventually got it into a kind of a shape that I was happy with. And it had all the elements that I wanted from the film, really, in a more concise manner. And obviously, it doesn't explore things in the same depth that the longer film did, but I was still very happy with it. And it is quite long for a short, 22 minutes, but I really felt that it couldn't be any shorter than it is.
Can I just say, well, I love David's film as well. I thought it was great. I love werewolf films anyway. Oh, sorry, that's not giving anything away. It's in the title. Jeez.
Oh no, sorry, but thanks so much.
Yeah, but no, it's so funny. What I love about it, it keeps surprising you, and the length is a part of that as well. Because you think, well, it's a short film, it's going to end anytime, and it doesn't. And there's these things that keep going. You keep thinking, okay, so now. Sorry, and then he just. And then it's just so funny. But
thanks so much.
I just love the way that you kind of subverted things, within that genre a bit, which was great. It was quite playful.
Oh, thanks so much. Cheers. I really appreciate it.
It's cool.
It was very fun. It looked great, but I'd watch that. I definitely watch more of that story. I hope it is something, because I know sometimes you kind of are forced to prove your chops before you can get the money to do a feature, but honestly, something like this, and it's something so strong genre-wise, you'd hope as well that would really get picked up. Festivals is another question. I'll remember to ask that later again. But I loved it anyway.
Can I ask a question? Just about, sorry, I hope you haven't crossed this, but was the length a deliberate choice? I just loved the length,
I wouldn't say that it's necessarily like it wasn't a deliberate choice in that, I want to make something extra long. But that was the length that was roughly the length the script was, and that was the length that it felt right in the edit that the film should be as well. So I didn't really want to cut it shorter than that for the sake of being shorter either.
No, it's great. Just like as Gemma was saying, I just think the length is it's because you do sometimes you kind of miss the sort of being able to like sit in and relax into something and just kind of like watch it for a little time. And that was I thought that was the really fun part of it,
Especially when the characters are that strong, and not just the main character, like all the characters are very interesting in it. From the woman, the one parishioner, to the
Mrs. Rake, yeah.
Like just everyone. That's what I was saying with kind of, you don't mind sitting in that world. Like it doesn't feel like when you're watching it, it did not feel that length at all. Like you're just kind of watching it. Like, not gonna lie, sometimes when you see it short and it's like 22 minutes, you're like, oh my God, this is gonna, and then it's like, someone slowly looking out a window going, and then slow music, and then someone walking from the top of a hall to the bottom of a hall. You're like, oh my gosh, stop. You don't have any of that. This is like bang, 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 storyline, plot, and everything has a purpose. So you kind of sit down to watch it and you're like, I'd watch another 20 minutes of that, no bother.
Thanks so much. Cheers.
It's a weird thing, the pacing of a short film, I find, like trying to get that right, because you see some that are like, oh, this is just like 20 minutes of a feature, and you're just getting that taster. But then I don't know, personally, I think like the best shorts are the ones that are just like, oh, this is just like, this has its own rhythm, its own pace, and like that's the kind of, it's individual.
It's funny because you only feel it when it's wrong. Like that's it. It's something that you only notice the length of it if it's the wrong length for whatever reason. That if you're sitting there watching a film and you're just brought into it, you're just watching the film and you're really enjoying it. But when you're kind of taken out of it, going, oh, this is so slow. or this is too fast, what's happening? Like that's when it's a problem. So Mo, just tell me about yours.
Yeah, sure. Well, so this is a Screen Ireland short stories short. So I was asked on board by Ronan Cassidy, and so he was the producer initially, and he introduced me to Ivan Cush, the writer, and I loved the script. I thought it was quite kind of Beckett-ish or Beckettian. I am a theatre actor, you know, as well, so it kind of lent it spoke to me quite quickly. You know, it's just two actors acting, and I was like, I love it already. Yeah, so I was on board then, and we applied to Screen Ireland, and Ronan was applying with a second short, and he did say if I get the second short, then I'll have to just do one. So I'll come off Home, and he gave me a different producer then. And so
it was like he had two in the same scheme, and they both got shortlisted.
They both got funding. So he had to.
Should have booked the Mo horse. Oh, no.
No, I know. Yeah, exactly. What was he thinking? Jeez. But so he went off to the one, and then so we got funding in August 2019, and we were going to. It took a while to get the shoot dates, and then eventually, when we did, it was going to be in May, and then of course COVID happened in the middle of me doing my last casting session on March 10th. So at least we had the cast anyway. And then once the first lockdown kind of came down around July, we legged it out. I think we were one of the first productions out for Screen Ireland, I think. So we shot July 27th and then August 3rd. It was 2 days, and it had to be a Monday because we were shooting in the Hugh Lane, and that's when they were closed. And so it was a 20 grand short. So one space, two actors. Still not a lot of money. It's crazy, like, you know, how it just, I don't know where it goes to, you know, it just flies out the window. Doesn't come to me anyway.
Did you have to, Mo, how did you handle all the Sean Scully stuff?
Well, we sent him the script, and he just wrote a letter back and said it's delightful, and said go ahead. The only thing that was quite difficult was that the Hugh Lane, obviously they wouldn't let us put any lights on the wall or on the ceilings or on the ceiling. So we were going to, because there was a skylight, we were going to put lights on the roof shining in so that we could control the daylight. But then that fell through after several meetings. So then we just had daylight that we had to, moving light that we had to just deal with and try to grade around, you know. But yeah, so that's how we went about it. And then I've only just recently finished post-production. I just got it into Cork. And Christ. So,
premiere.
Yeah, it's quite difficult post-production when you're on kind of essentially lockdown, because it's tricky. It's weird how difficult it is to communicate with people just on Zoom. You gotta be physically with them, especially when it's about your film, you know. And it's really difficult not to be physically beside them. And I don't know what is the difference or why it works better, but it does if you're there.
To the process. It's like trying to organize stuff on emails, and someone reads it wrong and answers it wrong, and and then you've like 1,000 emails. It's kind of that similar indirectness, rather than when if you're sitting next to somebody, you can point to it and go back 2 seconds, and they're like this way, and you're like no, that way.
Yeah.
But rather than back and forth over distance, it's such a bigger rigmarole. Where you're like, oh, do we want a shot for that? And you're like, oh yeah, we've this shot, and you're like, I didn't mean that one. Like it's just everything more difficult. And like again, it's not like, oh, you can socially distance being in a kind of editing room, because it's like there was dungeons with no air.
Yeah, exactly. The screen share is tricky. Sorry, go on ahead. Yeah.
No. Just saying that the whole, like, I didn't realize with face masks how much I rely on people's facial expressions. Like, it's really disconcerting, you know, and like, there's only so much you can say with an eyebrow and a bit of your eyes. Yeah,
totally.
No, you don't get that. You're like, hate this.
yeah.
For anyone on Zoom,
scowling with your mouth, smiling with your eyes.
Yeah, just making a creepy face at your eyes. So yeah, okay. Well, that's interesting, because I always think, I don't know, especially for filmmakers starting off, and me, because I'm nosy, I always like to hear about the budget and a little bit about that process, because I think especially when you're starting out, you see films as a finished product, and they vary so much in how to get them made, and like on the kind of work people get into them, and people don't know how many applications you've had to submit to get those things on screen, and or like how many doors you've had to knock on. So I just like asking that, even if it is a little bit nosy, if that's okay.
Oh no, sure, absolutely. Yeah.
No, yeah.
So David, did you tell me your budget? Am I allowed to ask? Is it a secret?
I'll say this: we had much less than we needed.
How long is a piece of string, David? So
it was tough. It was like a 4-day shoot. It was crammed everything in.
And you gore as well.
Yeah. And I learned how that's actually, I hadn't realized how much that's kind of a budgetary thing, in that like I'd even wanted it to be much more like spraying everywhere than it is in the film. But it's like I think you need a lot more money to do that properly.
Where did you guys shoot?
We shot in Wicklow and Dublin. Yeah, the church is like a Protestant church. Yeah, that's in Dublin. Then kind of most of the exterior stuff is all in Wicklow. So it was probably just the church we shot in Dublin actually, and everything else is in Wicklow, I think. There was a lot of change of locations and stuff, made it quite difficult. So, but we got there in the end.
Again, very engaging, and I didn't even think about that. I was like, you do have so many locations.
Yeah.
So also I want to ask, so I want to go around and I just want to ask, when you have your script, whether it's your script or someone else's script, then what are the steps you start to take, or start even to think of, in getting that on screen? So like, some people might imagine dealing with the actors, or some people might go straight to storyboards and certain stories as well. Edwina, especially yours is so stylistic, actually very stylistic, that it kind of warrants its own thoughts. And again, just thinking about what would be your processes in getting it to screen, and what would be stuff that you would have to kind of maybe budget in time wise, like as in, would you go and do like 3 recce's, or try and get as much time with the actors, that kind of stuff? Like, what's your prep before you go on your shoot? So actually we'll go back to you, David, and then go back around, if that's all right.
I didn't storyboard this, just shot listed it, kind of just from Maureen came on board very early in the process, so we were very much on the same page straight away, and had the same idea for it. And then,
what were your influences for the cinematography for this? What were you looking at?
We were actually kind of looking at that as kind of classical in some ways. I was kind of thinking a bit of like Buñuel films and stuff. It shouldn't be, we were kind of saying like the cinematography in itself, for most of it anyway, shouldn't really be very intrusive. It's kind of composed world to begin with. That makes it more interesting when it gets when the crazy stuff sort of happens in it. Then it's not exactly static, but it's not, it's not that kinetic, the cinematography in most of it either. So we're kind of looking at that, and for it to have a kind of a filmic style, and I guess for it to look a little bit like look a little bit like kind of some sort of exploitation films in the 70s and stuff like that. Then in terms of the prep, just did the shot list, and then there might be some things that practically Noreen would say, it's better if we do it like this, or blah blah blah. But for the most part, yeah, it was we went ahead as planned. But obviously then when it came to the actual day of the shoot, then shot list kind of goes out the window to a certain extent. You do as much as you can, but not able to get everything. So yeah, that was the prep really, and obviously we had a great production designer as well, Padraig O'Neill, who did an amazing job. Like the rectory, he did it absolutely. A lot of that was kind of a lot of bare walls and stuff. He really did an absolutely fabulous job in transforming that into something that felt lived in.
And what would your process be with the actors then?
Process with the actors, on this particular film, really it was just, we approached their agents, and if they said yes, we got them to do it. Like, I think Lola was the first person who came on board, and like we're really happy about that, because he was like, we really, he was like our first choice for the role, and it happened quite early that he came on board, and that was a real boost of confidence for us. But it kind of meant, because of our low budget, and because we're working with a really talented cast, an experienced cast, like Paul Kennedy and Elva Trill and Ryan O'Grady. that, you know, we couldn't really ask them to do, you know, days of auditions on top of the film. So on this particular occasion, I just trusted that it was a really, really good group of actors that we had. And I discussed with them over the phone about the style of the film. But I think they all understood it as well from the script. It didn't really take much prep with them, to be honest. And I'm delighted with how all their performances turned out.
Thanks so much. And Edwina?
Yeah, like it was a funny one, because I think with this, I think because it was science fiction-esque, we were able to sort of be slightly more conceptual about the whole thing. So I spent a lot of time actually looking at abstract painting. So I was looking a lot at cubism and sort of that period of art, because I always just kind of loved it, and it felt very resonant to me in terms of the script, and so that was very important. So that's kind of, I sort of began with that and then built out from that concept. So then it became very much about how can we sort of translate these things. So block color became then important, and framing everybody through quadrant space rather than through rule of thirds. And that was a lot to do with Aidan Galt as well, who came on, who shot it, who suggested, you know, maybe we should try 4:3 if that's something. And that's where all that sort of came from, because we had a 2-day shoot, and I mean, similar to David, it wasn't enough. So I knew that we would have to be really, really ruthless about what we were shooting and how we were going to shoot. So it was a very packed 2 days, and it was all shotless within its life. And then everything we shot is in the shores. So we just exploited it as much as we could. So, and then in terms of cast, that they were all, basically everybody that was involved was friends or friends of friends. And that was the only way we knew we could do it, that we could sort of beg, borrow, steal, basically. And so Ronan Raftery, who plays the multiple characters, was myself and Simon's mate from college. And then Aoife Duffin, we've kind of known for years. And yeah, so we were just very lucky, and they were very patient with us.
Fabulous. And Mo?
So I suppose what I do is I read the script over and over and over again, and then I make sure I know what it's about. That sounds ridiculous, but I suppose that, you know, it kind of really resonates with me. It has its own home kind of thing. So you really understand the themes, and then after that, you know, I just start seeing it in my head. And I usually just do like a shot list, but for this, because of my first funded short, I just did a storyboard, and it looks ridiculous. It's so funny because I can't draw. But so I kind of did a website with all my notes on it, and my storyboard and everything, and I would send that to cast and crew, so everyone would, you know, be on the same page. We know what we were doing. And what else did I do? Oh yeah, I knew that sound was going to be hugely important in it. Obviously, it's called Hum, so sound has to be very important. So I got post-production guys on immediately. So from the get-go, my sound designer and my musician. So the music was kind of going to be sort of part of the sound design, so they kind of had to work together. And because basically we're filming paintings, beautiful paintings, but they are flat against a wall essentially. There's not much depth of field, so it's really it was quite tricky. How do we kind of make them come alive? And so, I mean, racking was the main thing. Racking them into focus, that just worked a treat. I mean, I remember discussing this, going, I was talking about a million different ways of how to bring them in, and I was like, I think it's racking. I think racking is the best way to bring it in. And of course it was. We shot loads of different things with the paintings to kind of make them kind of seem alive and stuff, but actually racking was the best. It was by far the best device to make it seem like they were alive. And then, you know, just sound design to bring them, kind of give them some sense of kind of consciousness and type of thing. And then I was in the space a lot. I hung out in the space loads. And the space itself is really interesting, from the floorboards to the skylights, to the shutters. And so the shutters, I noticed when I was in there annoying the security guards. I was like, can I open and close those shutters? And so when they did, they emitted a hum with a lovely, nice, soft hum. And I went, oh, this is great. And then I was there at a time of the day when when they were opening and the sun shone through and cast a light through the shutters onto the wall, which in and of itself kind of looked like a Scully painting, a light Scully painting, you know. And I thought, Jamie Mackers, Jesus crackers, I'd like to get that in. That's going into the film. So I knew I was going to start the film on the hum of the shutters. Now the shutters, pain in the hoop, they're not pretty at all. And they didn't fit the rule of thirds as well, which is really annoying, because whenever I was trying to track along them kind of as a, you know, an extreme close up, kind of going with them kind of along the ceiling as they opened, and there was pillars in the way throughout the whole thing, and they kept getting in the way. And so yeah, so it was really, really annoying. So but anyway, I think we sort of got there. We used what we could anyway for it. So the space was interesting, was nice. And then I cast Bosco Hogan as the elderly gentleman. So obviously you don't audition him. He just gets the part. He's a legend. And then he came to the auditions for the younger guy, Tim. Our character's name is Tim. And Barry John Kinsella walked in and it was him immediately. So, I mean, all the other actors were great, but you know, when someone walks in the room and that's they're the character, that's it. And so then I just talked to them about their backstory, things like that. And I had to rehearse over Zoom because we were on lockdown, which is tricky because they have to, obviously, the physicality of it. I mean, I know they're sitting on a bench, they walk to a bench and sit on it, you know, for the whole thing, but still, which painting that they point at what particular time and all that type of thing. So I couldn't rehearse that with them. You can't talk it through actors going, right now on this line you point here, and they're like, you know, that's not going to work. So I had to do it on the day, the very first day that we're shooting. It was a 2-day shoot kind of thing. And I was kind of nervous about that because I just knew that with actors, and any good actor, it's physical, you know, it had to go into their body, you know, and it's rehearsal. It takes a while to go in, and just getting used to your voice within the space and the movement and each other and the crew and all of this type of thing. So, you know, acting so sensual. So anyway, yeah, so then, but they were brilliant, and I started with wides and things like that, and then they eventually got into it, and, you know, they're amazing. They just were playing and that type of thing. So that's what I did. And
I love that shot you had of I think Barry sitting on the bench, and then he's facing one way, and then Bosco's behind him at a distance and he's facing the other way, and you got the Scully painting. I just thought it was a beautiful frame that you had composed.
Oh, thanks very much. Sorry, say that again. I can't hear you.
Was that an important frame for you, or, you know, was it how did that come about?
Yeah, no, that's in the storyboard a lot. I really love that shot, but it's really annoying because I introduced Cecil into it visually bit by bit, but I had to cut it out. I was given edit notes and I didn't want to cut it out. So there's a lot more of Cecil coming in where we see bits and pieces of him, like, you know, just his nose kind of breathing in the painting. They told me to cut that out. So instead we go to the shot where we kind of rack focus along the painting. We hear him breathe it in, sniffs it in, and then we go to that shot that you're talking about. And then we see him go to touch the painting and he doesn't quite touch it. He's just kind of receiving its energy. We do all these types of things to bring it away. I loved all of that and I had to cut it out. But yeah, that shot was definitely an important shot. It was part of that sequence, bringing Cecil in, that I had to cut out. Yeah, so.
It's the trials of editing. And
yeah.
Actually, yeah, that's an interesting to say. Were there any darlings that had to be killed? So that's Mo's lovely darling in the edit process. Things that didn't work or had to leave or had to be culled for time. David?
Thankfully not, actually. No, it wasn't anything that was that we really cut out. It's quite similar to what the final script was, really. There isn't too much differences. Really, with us, just would have liked more coverage of certain parts of it and stuff. But thankfully, no, I didn't have to kill any darlings.
If there was unlimited budget for you to go do reshoots or go back and do anything again, was there anything that you would go back and touch up or get?
Well,
besides blood?
The last scene in the church, kind of when this kind of like denouement thing. I mean, that was crazy. Like we literally did that in like the shortest space of time ever. It was like the end of the first day. We had no time. That wide shot, kind of closing wide shot, that's the only take we had of that. And the whole build up to it, like did it in an insanely quick amount of time. I would have loved to have had more coverage of that from some different angles and stuff. But yeah, that would probably be the scene that, if I could choose to have more time again with, would be that scene, because it was crazy.
And Edwina?
It's such an interesting question, you know, that kind of, if you could go back knowing what you know now. And like, so we were, so Colin Campbell edited our short, and which was incredible. You know, he's done, well, I won't list his credits, but he's done a lot of really good stuff. So, and he was really essential in terms of rhythm, because, you know, so much of it is with that short, you know, it was about getting the pace right. And so he cut out a lot of dialogue and things like that, much to probably Simon Ash Brown, the writer's shock. So he was great at just saying less is more, and that was a really valuable learning curve for me, I think. And then the killer was like the music, and trying to get that right, and trying to know how to score it, what was the right score, where was it going to work. And then I think if I was to go back, the thing, if I had money, the final sequence would have been a proper VFX shot, because I think we did what we could. Like everything we did, yeah, pretty much everything we did was in camera, and if we just had that bit more, it would have been amazing to do like a proper VFX shot, build the whole thing. But look, I think, yeah.
And Mo, was there anything else? Is there anything that unlimited money, unlimited time to go back, or anything that you'd go, oh, I'd probably have done that a bit different?
Well, there was a couple of shots I did have to, well, a good few I had to leave out because we just didn't have the time. And I think obviously just shooting during COVID, all that type of stuff, we couldn't hear each other through the masks and what? And so it took ages. And the shutters wouldn't work for ages as well, which is really annoying. And then the sun wouldn't come out when they did work. But so there was shots like, so we only had the crane on the second day, but we ran out, we didn't have much time on the second day. So I would have loved to have gotten, when they point at the painting, so they do it, well, kind of 3 times. Initially, Cecil talks at the paintings, he kind of describes them. The second time he hums, the third time he hums again in the same pattern. So I was always worried about, and I wanted to get on the third pattern, a crane above him, and we're kind of looking at him from above, and as he points at the paintings, we point at the painting and we rush towards it, you know, that's kind of what I wanted. But we had no time. So that's all I could get in the time that was given to us. But I mean, they all did an amazing job. It just, that's just what happens.
It looks gorgeous.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Mo and Edwina, both of you would apply to, I suppose. How do you feel about, I think it might have been touched on a little bit earlier, but how do you feel about, because both your films are very visual, how do you feel about being seen on the small screen to begin with? Do you find that annoying, or?
Well, yeah, it's blooming annoying. It's like, because you have like a 5.1 and, you know, you want everyone to, you know, get all the detail and stuff, and the beautiful grade that John Talbot did, you know, you want people to see all the work, obviously. And so I suppose we've made a piece of cinema, and we haven't made a piece of laptop kind of film, you know. So yeah, but at the same time, you know, it's going to be open to a larger audience, I suppose, which is great, because I'm all about the audience. I love my audience, and the bigger the better. So it has its advantages as well. That's all right.
I'd honestly, I like the thing. I think the thing that kind of, because I've listened and watched it loads, you know, just to check, God, did I do that right? I don't know. Actually, the sound mix, that was the thing that the difference, even just playing on a bigger screen, like even the difference between like going from a laptop to a television, like I really missed the sound design because I'd watched it so much just on like a laptop or on a phone, and then when we were streaming it for another festival, I'd forgotten about the sound design. It was just like, oh right, yeah, that's what it was supposed to sound like. And I suppose that's the details maybe that maybe get missed. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
What about yourself?
Yeah, I feel the same. Yeah, as you say, the sound design is one definitely that I feel. Yeah, it's a pity. Obviously, it'd be great to see it in the big screen, but as Mo said as well, it's good that maybe more people get to see it this way, and hopefully more festivals in the new year.
And actually, I didn't ask this because I already knew in 2 instances, but that I'm not people listening to this podcast. So just Mo, I know this is your world premiere.
Yes.
Your world premiere.
Yes.
So this is fresh off the editing presses. Metaphorical editing presses. But Edwina and David, where has these screened before?
So we did our world premiere in Galway, so which was awesome, and then it's done Newport Beach, and we were at Kerry, which was great. We have a few coming up. We've got the European Short Film Festival in Berlin, and then we got longlisted for like the Buenos Aires Film Festival, but not official selection. They have this other streaming event, I think. And then a few Irish ones coming up like Waterford.
And David, so where's this screened before?
It's screened at Nashville Film Festival and Screamfest Horror Film Festival in LA. So this is our European premiere, and then it'll be at Leeds Film Festival this month as well.
And it's great. Is this what has the response been to that?
Yeah, it got. There weren't too many reviews really from it when it played in America. I think kind of, I think that the fact that, well, Nashville went virtual, whereas Screamfest was like a drive-in. So we got one review from Screamfest, which is positive. They gave it 4 stars. Said it was American Werewolf in London meets Father Ted. So
that's a good one.
Brilliant.
They've good knowledge.
Yeah, we didn't hear much aside from that, and but hopefully.
Quote for the poster. That's brilliant.
Yeah, exactly.
And on your bio.
And Edwina, have you heard anything back from people?
So we won the Bingham Ray Galway, which was really cool, and really just kind of awesome. And then there's been sort of bits and pieces like my so Ray Davies, who gave us so we have a song at the end from the Kinks, and so Ray Davies is the guy who sort of makes the decision whether or not you can use his music, and so he really liked it. So that was really nice, because that was a big thing for the writer, particularly. He's a real Kinks fan, so that was really cool. And then just like, I suppose the most nerve-wracking thing for me is showing it to family, because they are, well, for me, they're the toughest. So, and thankfully they haven't said it was shit. So that was nice. What about you, Maureen?
Well, Cy Edwards from Cork Film Festival really liked it. so that's why I got an email. But that was nice. So thanks, Cy.
Can I ask, Maureen, you talked a bit about you feeling that it was sort of Beckettian, the thing. Did you have any filmic references when you were approaching sort of?
With regards to Beckett?
Well, even just like, was that your main reference, do you think? Or did you have other references as well?
Well, I suppose filmic references, I was kind of thinking Wes Anderson quite a bit. I was thinking of kind of visually referencing Beckett a little bit more, perhaps maybe in costume, but we decided against it at the end because it kind of seemed a little bit, I don't know, it just seemed a bit too heavy-handed when we were kind of playing around with the costumes. Like, so there was one way we could have gone with Cecil, where we could have gone a bit more like hobo-ish and kind of a bit more of a nod to Waiting for Godot, which obviously is a nod to Chaplin and stuff like that, but it just seemed too big or something. There was something, I don't know, it just kind of got in the way. it just didn't feel right, basically. And then there was other things where I did play around with storyboard with regards to Beckett a little bit more, kind of boxing the heads off a bit, and not having them in shot together a lot, kind of singles, and kind of having them talking almost, directly into the camera. They're talking to each other, but they're talking directly into the camera. And again, it just, we tried that out and it just didn't really sing or something. It just didn't work. I kind of let go of that a bit and kind of went a bit more down towards kind of, Wes Anderson. And then on the day, then certain things changed anyways. But yeah, so I did think of it and I was playing around with it, but I kind of took it out, to be honest with you.
Creative compass again, that just goes, no, that's not working. And it's funny because you're like, why? Logically it works, but in your gut goes it doesn't. And then you just have to trust that. Yeah. And I think it's it was off of an awful lot of it, to be honest, an awful lot of it changed off of Bosco in a good way. I mean, so just the actor and the energy that Bosco ended up, I was like, oh, okay, yeah. So this is where we're going, this is the way we're going now. So I can't, I wouldn't be able to, it would be kind of imposing. You should be very careful, I suppose, with style as a director and that type of thing. It can often be, if you're not sensitive enough, a little bit of an imposition, and you've got to kind of, I suppose, in a way, kind of be receptive to all the energies around you. And yes, yeah, you do have your ideas. You do know, the most out of everyone, what the story is about and that type of thing. But at the same time, if you have people on board who have a certain energy, you can't sit on it then. You're working with them. You have to bring that energy in, and you can't kind of go, here, put a cap on it. We're doing this. So it was just that, there's certain things you've got to let go of, and that's cool because it ends up becoming something else then, and you've just got to go with it. So that's kind of what happened, I think, with a lot of my ideas. So thank you guys so much for chatting with us. Thanks a million.
Thanks so much for everything.
Thanks, Gemma.